foremost, happy V-Day. Not V-Day, that's different. Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. Although if you want to remember the war, then that's good too, because never forget. So random. Every time I start one of these, it goes in a completely different direction. And I never know where it's going to end up, but yeah.
There's a bunch of squirrels in here. That's all it is.
I want to talk about today, on this glorious Valentine's Day, is... That was like a cheer move, wasn't it? I was not a cheerleader.
Obviously, Stacy, you are not a cheerleader.
The thing I want to talk about today is empathy. I've been thinking about empathy a lot. For lots of reasons. One, I was walking down the grocery aisle the other day and I heard a baby crying and I started
crying.
It is
super embarrassing.
I mean, I hate crying in front of people. Just, oh man, if I like,
oh my gosh, the baby's crying.
Oh, so embarrassing. Like, pull it together, man.
It got me to thinking about empathy. And about why does that bother me so much? Why can't I just be like, oh, that poor baby's crying, and feel sad for it?
And then move on.
Why does the fact that he's crying makes me want to cry?
It's empathy.
So I have a lot of empathy. Remember Steel Magnolias? Dolly Parton has a strict policy that no one cries alone around her.
That is me.
I also believe that having a low amount of empathy is not necessarily
a bad, horrible thing.
When you have less empathy, you are able to make harder decisions that some people who base their decisions on emotion would not necessarily be able to make. It's useful. I think people think, oh, if you have empathy, it's good. And if you don't, it's bad. But that's not always the case. There's good things to both of them. There's a reason why on this glorious planet of ours, we have people with high empathy and people with low empathy, because they have different strengths. I have super high empathy.
It's embarrassing.
Kyle has lower empathy. He will not start crying when someone around him is crying. He'll have compassion for them. I feel bad for them, but he does not feel the sadness in himself. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, now, one of the reasons I love this about this man, when things get hard, when things get difficult, as an outsider, he is like, oh, this is what you need to do. This is what he can very easily separate through all of that emotion to find the best path. And it's not always the advice people want to hear. It's like, oh yes, logically, this is the healthiest route to take, whatever the situation is. So I love that about him. I admire that. I'm a friend and a confidant. People confide in me. They feel kindred to me because I feel their
pain,
their happiness,
their fear.
Whatever they're feeling, I feel it too. So it's very easy for me to say, if you're telling me a story about what's happening to you, to be like,
oh, I completely understand.
Because I can almost see it from your perspective. And that's what empathy does. It helps you put yourself in someone else's shoes. So yeah, I like to be around people who are cheerful and happy, but I also can't help myself. If someone is sad, I'm attached to them because I want to make people feel better.
I'm a fixer.
So when it comes to like my husband, how you relate to your husband or your wife when you're talking about empathy, it's more important that I understand him than that I feel sad when he's sad or that I feel what he's feeling. So you have to kind of focus your empathy to not let it overtake you emotionally. Be like, you know what? I'm so sad about this. But I also want to try to really understand how you're reacting and why you're reacting this way, because that's more important. That's the most important. Because, when you're in a relationship, that's my primary mission field, is my relationship with my husband. And my secondary mission field is my children, and their health and well-being. So I want to make sure he's living his best life. That's what marriage means to me. I do everything I can to make sure he's living his best life. And he does the same thing. Now, do we always do that?
No. No.
Why? Because we're selfish, human.
Horrible people.
It's true. But we try. It's all about being conscious of your actions and repercussions of them. So I hope that wasn't too, I'm pretty sure it was. Hope it wasn't too convoluted for you, but yeah, there you go. Happy Valentine's Day.